welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. Right now we are in the middle of a boys room makeover and we started with this custom closet system. We wanted to build 2 wardrobes and a center dresser. We have 2 sons that are 3 years old and 1 year old. So we wanted this to be something that can last into as long as they're going to be sharing a room. We built this 100% from scratch, from the doors to the drawers. I'm going to do my best to explain how we did each step so you can do this too. The first step we did was to take off the baseboards and take out the carpet. We want everything to sit super level, so we didn't want to build this on top of the carpet. You'll also want to remove your closet doors and the trim pieces that the doors sit on. We removed the doors a few years ago, but we never took the trim pieces off. Because we're adding a dresser to the center of this closet system, we wanted to add outlets in case we want to add a TV, video game system, whatever the boys might want later. So my husband is making a lot of holes in my walls, and that's okay because they're all going to be covered.
What? That's unfortunate.
What?
Well, I need clearance, you know. I think I can fit the box right there. Let me see.
I mean, that side's got more room.
Well, I'm gonna have to drill a hole though to get the wire through.
I'm starting to think he just likes to make holes in drywall at this point, but he knows what he's doing and he just had to get boxes in and hammers and all that fun stuff. This is definitely a step that's not necessary, but I highly recommend doing it if you have the knowledge of electrical or can hire an electrician. You can always use outlets, but you can't really add them after the fact. Now onto the wardrobes, as I'm calling them. They are essentially just 2 floor-to-ceiling cabinets, which how we build our cabinets is a box without a front. And it's super easy once you do these a few times. We're using the Craig pocket hole jig, and all the pocket holes are going to be on the areas that are going to connect to the wall. So you're not going to see any holes or screws from the inside of the cabinet or from the area that the dresser is on. You definitely want to be mindful of where you are putting your screws because you don't want to see screws on this. We are using 3/4 inch birch plywood for these wardrobes, and this is going to be the top and bottom of them. And again, we will just be pocket holing them to the frame. One of the most important steps that I think can be often overlooked is to sand everything that you can. Anything that you're going to touch eventually, just sand it. It's easier to do it before you install it as well. Scott stood this up for the first time, he cracked himself up because he didn't, I guess, realize how large it was. And I kept the clips in here because I just thought it was funny. And then I came out and was kind of looking at it and trying to visualize how the closet rods would fit inside and stuff like that. But it's just kind of a look into the first time we see these projects, how they kind of come together.
One floor ceiling.
Daddy wants him to the
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do like a.
What?
Hey, Daddy, watch this.
To cover up the edges of the plywood, I am going to use an edge banding. It is a iron-on like wood veneer that matches different woods. It comes in a bunch of different colors. This one is for like plywood color, and you just simply iron it on. And then you can come with like a razor blade or a banding cutter to cut off any excess, but this actually fit pretty well, so I didn't have to do that. But it's super easy and it just makes everything look a little more clean. Next, I'm going in with the Kills All-Purpose Primer, and I did do 2 coats of primer on this. I am using a foam roller to avoid having any texture marks. So this is what 1 coat of primer looks like, and the reason I do 2 is it just makes it such a more even surface for the paint to go onto. I always use a 220 grit sandpaper in between every coat of paint or primer, and then I wipe it off with a tack cloth. This is the actual paint, and it is a scuff-proof semi-gloss like cabinet trim paint. I'll have everything linked below as well, and again using a foam roller to avoid any brush marks or roller marks. And then again, 2 coats of this paint too. This is the base frame that Scott put in, and then he just attached the cabinets to the wall studs and that base frame. To make a dresser countertop sort of thing, we used 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. We glued them together, and Scott also screwed them together. And then, of course, sanded every side of this. I believe he used a 120 grit, a 220, and then a 320. And then we used a 1x2 trim piece. I believe it's Select Pine. And that finishes the front edges of it, so it looks like 1 piece of solid wood. Again, you can use the edge banding if you were just using like 1 piece of plywood or didn't have a trim piece. Sanded that. I also went in and filled the seams and then painted that the same way I painted the wardrobes. Using a dado blade on the table saw, we were able to put in little grooves on the wood pieces and then slide in the thin piece of plywood through it, and it creates the most perfect shaker style door. And it's pretty easy once you get used to that dado blade, and then just using pocket holes to secure the sides of it. Craig makes a really easy to use hinge jig, so we just use that to install all the hinges. In this room, I definitely wanted some more texture going on. So I added a faux brick panel from Home Depot. These are super easy to install. We just put it up with some nails. And then I went over it with a few coats of paint. This is just I believe it was an eggshell paint because I wanted different sheen than on the actual wardrobes, which are a semi-gloss. You'll see me finish this up later in here, but I did go ahead and just do 2 coats of paint, made it perfectly like white, and then later I'll be like caulking and finishing it up. This was after just 1 coat of the paint, and I just wanted to show you that it definitely needs more than 1. Using a dado blade again, we cut grooves on what will be the sides of the drawer boxes, and then we are able to slip in a piece of that 1/4 inch plywood to make the bottom. And Scott was able to do all of the grooves at once, which made this kind of work like an assembly line, and it made it go really smooth. The drawers were installed, we were able to put all the trim pieces on. So we did like the baseboards, a top trim, and then a smaller trim around the brick just to make everything look seamless and finished. Now it's time to get the doors and drawer fronts finished. So I filled all the screw holes and seams with wood filler, and we also built the drawer fronts the same way we did the doors, just smaller. And then 2 coats of primer. And then we used our sprayer to spray the doors. Again, same 2 coats, sand in between. I really wish I was able to explain how we installed the drawer fronts. Basically, you do just screw them in from the back side, but it just wasn't the easiest thing for us to get the clearance between each drawer. The spacing of it was just kind of hard for us to do this time. I don't really know why, but it just was not the easiest step for us. So I feel like there's better tutorials than how I can explain how we did this. So I do apologize that I'm not able to give you guys pointers on this step. I know someone will ask or point it out, we left the inside of the drawers and the closets the natural plywood look because the cabinets throughout our house are actually like this. Even like our builder grade kitchen cabinets, this is how they look inside. So we just wanted to keep that look going throughout the house, and we actually really like the look of the raw wood. Here's a reminder of what this closet looked like before. you like this makeover, I hope you'll consider subscribing. And we have a lot more to do in this room. Coming up next, we have board and batten, we have painting, and then all the fun decorating to come later too. I also just want to thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Searching for something that I